Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to call this meeting to order. Nope. As a reminder, please note that this audit committee meeting is being recorded for convenience of those unable to attend this meeting. Ade, can you please call the roll?
Yes, Anthony Giordano,
Present.
Frank Sirabello,
Present.
Shirley Orban, present, Camille Casarati,
Present.
Marjorie Dinstad,
Present.
Renita Parsons, Kevin Troy,
Present.
Sharon Odwin, Maisha Saab,
Present.
Alice Hope.
Present.
Thank you very much. Noting of the minutes of the meeting of the audit committee held on October 7th, 2025. First order of business is agenda item number 2, noting of the minutes of audit committee of BERS held on October 7th, 2025. The minutes have been previously provided to the committee via SharePoint site. May I have a motion to consider the minutes of the October 7th meeting?
Motion, Shirley.
Second,
Archie.
so noted. Please raise acclamation on adopting the minutes of the October 7th meeting.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Minutes are adopted. Executive Director's update. My favorite part.
Not much to add. I'm gonna save most of my ammunition for the board meeting, but I will acknowledge right up front that of the 14 headcount that we were allocated at the most recent board meeting last month, we did not allocate any to audit. And I know Ade is not happy with that. I suspect Chair Giordano is not happy with that. And we will consistently go back to the board and ask for more headcount over the next few months. I'll have an update for the board on the aggregate status of our open headcount and hiring, and I'll save that to the board meeting.
Okay. And is that it?
That's it.
Thank you, Sandy. Next item on the agenda is agenda item number 4, the internal audit director's update. Ms. Ade.
All right, so really quickly, today's agenda, I'm just gonna go over audit committee, what to expect, because we just had an election last month and we have returning members and new members. So I will quickly cover what you can expect as members. And then I'll go into the audits that were completed since the last meeting, ongoing audits, provide an update on outstanding open audit findings. I'll also touch on some of the required annual reporting. And then we'll close this out with an update on the risk assessment and the internal audit plan. All right, so first up, I just want to say thank you to all the new and returning audit committee members. We really appreciate your commitment and willingness to serve on our audit committee, and we look forward to your participation and your insight. So purpose of the audit committee. So generally, the purpose is to provide independent oversight of BERS's governance, risk management, and internal control environment. And this is typically done by overseeing key processes within the organization, like financial reporting, overseeing the internal audit function and our activities, compliance with laws and policies, and helping to promote accountability and transparency in BERS's operations. Just one little caveat when it comes to financial reporting. So BERS has an external auditor that is responsible for auditing the financial statements. And so they report to the New York City Audit Committee. And when their audit is completed, they report to the full Board of Trustees once a year. That was done at the January board meeting.
May I add something? Also, so with all these audits, I didn't know it was a responsibility, but apparently the auditors call me as the chair and have an interview with me about things, which is barking up the wrong tree. But no, so I guess even though we're really not in position, they ask me things that are really not within my purview in terms of, like, seeing specific things that might give me red flags, things that I don't have access to in terms of, like, actually reconciling books and things like that. But if we should be mindful as a committee that if we see something say something specifically to me, because I get asked these questions during the audit, and I try to, during these audit processes, and I try to be as forthcoming as possible. Most of the time, I've complained about stuff from the controller's office.
Who asked you?
Who asked me?
Who asked?
The auditors, like the actual auditors will come and it's like a part of their process.
Yeah, so this, I'll talk a little bit more about that further on the project, but we're going through an external assessment. It's required by the standard once every 5 years. So basically, our audit function is being audited. So they reached out to.
But I've had a couple of times though, I think even on the controller's audit, the auditors reached
Yes,
out
they
to.
do that every year.
Yeah. I know I've had a few of those calls.
Can you give us a couple of examples of what we think you're on the lookout for? Because it is so kind of.
You know, I let them know up front that they, look, as board of trustees, we are kind of larger oversight when I look at these things on a daily basis. But I do give credit and kudos to, it's hard to do, but I give Sandy and Daniel credit for always being kind of open architecture and letting, and giving a day for, I mean, just coming from the corporate world, a day has the ability to publicly criticize Sandy and Daniel and has done it. I don't know of many corporate CEOs who would do that, would allow that, the audit, internal audit function to have that puzzle. So I usually praise the fact that we have open architecture here, and a day is about as thorough as it gets. So that I feel very comfortable in this position. Is usually what my general sentiment is.
And generally, the auditor will ask questions around the potential for fraud, experience with fraud, knowledge of fraud, controls, knowledge of controls, existence of controls, any events that triggered controls that came to the committee, then often whistleblower status, if we have a whistleblower program, have any whistleblowing events gotten to the board or the audit committee. There's some other things, but that's the gist of an external auditor's kind of concerns at the board level.
Right. So, and it's mostly regarding governance and our role in governance.
So it's more, I just, is it more fiduciary?
Yeah, I suppose it is checking a box to some extent for them and part of the process to see if we know what we know. But I'm very, like, I don't look at the books every day, so I don't know, I don't have the ability to answer those questions. But in terms of the general governance of this and structure of BERS, I feel very comfortable.
So when that actuarial situation happened, it would, I'm curious, as when we were told that, I don't even remember which one of the pensions said it first or.
Oh, with the DFS issue?
Yeah.
I didn't get into that. That was because so we did not talk, the DFS auditors did not call me. So I didn't have to deal with that, fortunately. But yeah, that would have been a little tricky, I suppose, considering our actuary wants to go to feud DFS on their, anyway, okay.
Well, I'm the new kid on the block, and tell me one thing, something, just, welcome, Mahisha. Hi, hey, girl. What does the audit committee not do?
So the audit committee is responsible for oversight of all the processes within BERS. What I can say the audit committee doesn't do, not because it's not responsible, but because that responsibility is taken over by the external auditors, and the New York City Audit Committee is reviewing the financial statements. Yeah, so so we have Grant Thornton. They've been around for maybe 4 years now or 5 years, and they review the financial statements, and they do present a report to the board, which they did last month, but then they also report to the audit committee, and they're hired by the controller's office. So when we do our audits, we kind of stop at reviewing those financial statements because that's going to be redundant. We just review the reports that roll up to the financial statements, and that's where we stop.
Got it.
Grant Thornton does for all five pension boards, their audit or their review. And so that we saw, remember, I don't know if you remember that the woman came on, she does the same report almost every, almost verbatim for each of the 5 funds.
Is that based on each controller? Like if we have a new controller now, will Grant Thornton continue with this, or is there?
No, I think that contract.
For the contract that spans a few years. I think this last one may have been 2 or 3 years. All right, so our responsibilities include, financial statements with the caveat that I mentioned, and reporting. So things like reviewing audit reports, which we will do at this meeting today. Ensuring that BERS has structures in place for anti-fraud controls in place and structures to ensure that the organization's ethics and values are upheld. System of risk management and control. So that involves things like reviewing the risk assessment, ensuring that there are appropriate controls in place. So you do that through the internal audit function. We do those reviews and we report back to you. And if you have questions, we'll respond to them. If you need any additional information, we'll provide that. So we're not expecting you to be on the floor looking up, what our controls are and, if they are functioning as intended. So overseeing the internal audit activities, so reviewing and approving the internal audit charter, reviewing our audit reports, ensuring that the function is objective and independent, via the reporting structure, reviewing the internal audit plan and approving that once a year. Compliance, so ensuring that BERS has the framework in place to be compliant. So BERS operates in a dense network of rules and regulations and laws. So we want to make sure that there are controls in place to ensure that there is compliance with those applicable rules and laws. And organizational governance, that's just making sure that the organization has established a governance framework and effectively oversees all the operations and functions of BERS. So what to expect as an audit committee? I'm sorry, was that a question?
Was there a question?
No, I see it as an alternate. I'm not an alternate. I'm on the committee.
Is that the minutes from the last meeting?
Yeah.
Oh, that was
That
back in
was
October.
before.
Yeah.
That was the October. Yeah. So I want to increase badges for all, I want to weaponize this committee and make it stronger. But no, I don't, I think it is, but I think given the attacks that this board has taken at times, I think the function of the internal audit is very important because we need to make sure our ducks are in a row if we're having some of these outward battles that we seem to get into every year, by hook or by crook. So we don't want to be, when they call us a messy rogue board, we do want to make sure that we have the ability. And I think a day is and her team is one of the big lines of defense in those discussions. And that's kind of why I agreed to stay on another year. What?
So what to expect as a committee member? It's a 2-year term.
Oh.
And so this committee is for 2026 through 2028.
Well, someone better tell Mayor Mamdani. So.
And we meet on a quarterly basis, typically on the same day as the board meeting. But if the committee would like to change that, we'll be happy to. We've been doing it for convenience since you're already going to be here for the board meeting.
Thank you.
We schedule on the same day. So annual review and approval of the internal audit plan and internal audit charter. We'll be doing that today. And review and discussion of audit reports and any related matters that the committee wants to discuss. And then really quickly regarding the internal audit function. So our mandate, sometimes people might wonder, like, do you have to have an audit function? Why do you have an audit function? So we are mandated. Our mandate is in section 136-1.4, subsection G of the codes, rules, and regulations of New York. And it states that each system shall have on its staff an internal auditor who shall report directly to the administrative head and shall submit to the administrative head regular reports of the audits of the system's records and accounting procedures, including recommendations for improvement and correction. So that's the foundation of why we have internal audit. Our purpose is to strengthen BERS's ability to create, protect, and sustain value. And we do that by evaluating key processes across the organization and providing objective findings and recommendations to management to help strengthen operations. And our team is currently staffed with 2 full-time employees. We are in the process of transitioning a consultant into a full-time employee. And when I created this, we were still recruiting for that FTE position and one consultant. So now that we are transitioning one consultant into a full-time, we are now recruiting for 2 temps. As Sandy said, we didn't get head count. And so we are only able to hire temps until we get head count.
I'm sorry, just clarifying. So you have two and you're recruiting for one more and attempt, so 4 in the end? That's the plan. Okay.
No, I'm sorry, 5 in the end. So we have 2 full-time employees fully onboarded. We're transitioning 1, so that will make 3.
Okay.
And then we'll be
And
recruiting
you're
for 2
searching for,
temps.
yeah, like another full-time and one temp.
No, two temps. So this,
Okay.
things have changed
That's-
since,
that needs
yeah,
to be
so
added.
the individual is still a temp, but they've accepted a full-time position, so they
Got it.
will be
Okay.
become. a
And as
full-time.
a temp, they don't have access to many of the systems that are vital to do their job. So Day ends up having to,
Yep.
you know, cut and paste stuff to the person. So we're gonna streamline that hopefully.
And so why can't we just hire more full-time?
He voted no.
Yeah.
That's
No,
because of that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, not
so,
enough headcount.
Yeah.
so there is a way to get around the issue of not having
We vote. And they
staff count through the vote.
Right.
Okay. It just means that they have limited access.
Yes.
Right. That piece is
Big.
very.
Yeah, I'm just
Not as efficient.
putting it right there on the table.
I voted for it.
I voted yes, and everybody was like, now, with the
All
smaller
right,
one.
I'm out of order.
Yes. Me too.
Let's go.
All right, so we're reporting on one audit today that was completed after the last meeting. And this is the payroll procedures audit. This was reported last week, actually, February 3rd, 2026. And this audit is based on the New York City Controllers Directive 13. And that directive requires a review of all aspects of payroll procedures at least once a year. We've typically done this every 2 years with a look back period of 2 years. So we make sure that there's coverage because we're not able to complete the audit every year. And our audit usually focuses on the aspects of personnel, timekeeping, and limited aspects of payroll that BERS HR is responsible for. HR is also known as personnel administration here at BERS, so I'll use both terms interchangeably. So for this audit, our first objective was to assess the adequacy and integrity of timekeeping records and approvals. And that included reviews of time records, approvals of those time records and related processes. Our second objective was to evaluate the processing of payroll changes, and those included salary adjustments, approvals for those adjustments, overtime, onboarding, offboarding, and other related processes. And lastly, we evaluated compliance with applicable regulations, policies, OPMs, and laws. So we came out of this audit with 5 findings, and they were largely related to time record approvals, overtime related issues, salary issues, and documentation. So I'll go over them one at a time. So the first one has to do with inadequate controls, overtime record approvals. So based on the department's SOPM and their established practices, managers and supervisors are required to approve employees' time no later than 2 weeks prior to the payroll date. And if they're unable to do so, members of the HR department will approve the time no later than 1 week before payroll. And if for whatever reason HR is unable to approve, maybe the deadline is closed or there's an error, they will contact CyberShift administrator to, CyberShift is a system that we use for timekeeping, and it feeds into payroll. And so if there's any issue and HR is unable to approve, they will contact CyberShift to help with those approvals. And CyberShift does have established relationships in the system. So you have employees, you have their direct approvers, which is usually the manager or the supervisor, and then you have a backup person for an auditor. So if the manager or supervisor is not able to approve or is not around, there's a backup person to approve. And so usually when there's an approval outside of the established relationships in CyberShift, there is usually supporting documentation. So say, for example, I'm asking HR to assist in approving an employee's record, I would have to send an email, and that email serves as support for HR implementing the approval. So we reviewed about 74,000 plus time records, and we found 4,400 records that were approved by individuals that were not the manager or supervisor or alternate approver. So they were either approved by members of the personnel administration team, by CyberShift, or by an individual who is not that employee's, authorized approval. We also found 62 records that were not approved. So of the records that were approved by other individuals, we pulled a sample of 35, and we requested support from HR, because normally there will be support where they're being asked to approve this record. But unfortunately, support wasn't provided, and so that's why we're reporting on this. What we recommended here was that HR strengthens the timekeeping approval controls as it relates to documentation. So we asked them to do this by enforcing and adhering to the SOPM approval requirements so that only authorized approvers may implement approvals in the system. We also recommended that they require documented authorization for all personnel administration staff or CyberShift administrator approvals, and retaining that documentation in a centralized location where it's easily retrievable for audit purposes or other purposes. And then we recommended periodic reviews to identify and address unauthorized or missing approvals in a timely manner. And then lastly, we recommended that they provide refresher training on timekeeping responsibilities and timeliness for the authorized approved spaces.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Oh, and also if I'm like interrupting at a point that, doesn't make sense, just,
That's fine.
yeah, okay. So of the 4,000 plus time records that were approved by others, you're just only looking at that the process was not appropriately done, or are you kind of like getting in the weeds of that and looking at to see if there are other time issues there?
Yeah, so we did get in the weeds. We pulled a sample.
Okay.
We pulled,
So that's
because there's
coming.
no way we can test all 4,000 records.
Sure.
right? So we pulled a sample.
Random
of
sample.
35, yeah, and we requested support. So the issue isn't that others approved, except for the very obvious ones that were not direct reports, but the issue is that if others approved without supporting documentation, because there are justifiable instances where HR will approve and CyberShift will approve.
Mhm.
But we needed to verify that, by way of documented authorization. So if I'm unable to approve, I will send an email to HR. So that email serves as documentation for.
Right.
Yeah, so we requested that, but it wasn't provided, so.
I have a question, just trying to orient myself. Sandy mentioned something about, in regards to, or for what he mentioned, the audit committee. Is this, I'll take this offline, is this more of a preventative in case, do you see things before it becomes a problem, or is it a bit more structured to after it's a problem, then we take action? I hope I'm clear in that because it'll help me.
So audit scope usually looks back, right? So in a more mature organization and internal audit function, there is something called continuous auditing where you're able to review these things as they're happening. But we don't have those systems in place. We don't have that level of data. And we may not for certain things, like this system is a DOE system, right? So we may not have that information on a real-time basis, right? So
Mhm.
what we do is we are looking backwards, depending on when the audit is being conducted. And any issues that are identified are usually corrected if they can be corrected, and then changes are implemented going forward to prevent these things from happening. So it is detective and preventative.
Okay, so for things to prevent them from happening again.
Yes, so management usually responds and provides a plan of action that they would take to mitigate these and prevent future occurrences.
So you'll see as these reports come out, you'll see all the little ratings on the side and all the recommendations. A day will follow, we'll get regular tallies of what percentage of these audits have been completed, how many things have been indoctrinated. It's a very, very thorough process you'll find from these reports.
Got it.
And so you will also see the dates that management expects to complete action. So the report is more detailed. There's only so much that we can fit here.
Gotcha.
I got a question, or I'm gonna clarify. So using the example to answer Camille's question. So let's say you said they didn't send it, let's say they did find an email is part of the process that they printed out and put it in that, you said a centralized location, right, that copy, so that is part of the process that should have been done if it wasn't by an authorized person for overall, and they send an email for a request, they are supposed to print out that email request with the support as a supporting document.
They don't print them out, but they have a central inbox
Hey, there
that they
you go.
could use for that,
Okay.
right? So that's what that's what the management indicated that they will do going forward.
Or will do, because that will
Yeah.
make it easier for audit, because then you don't have to.
Right, so those are the five findings. So those are the five findings from this review. And a day will follow up with all of the
Understand the
departments.
process, I just want to clarify specifically what they're going to do in detail.
Yes, so
It's not a print, it's not a print, it's a inbox.
inbox,
Yeah,
yes, so
That's where the documents will be stored.
yes.
So the requested support documentation for sample records, you're gonna continue following up until you get that?
Not for these specific items, right? So when we follow up on a quarterly basis, and management will give us an update on the actions that they've taken, right? So one of the actions that they're going to do is complete a biannual review of time records, right? So when that review is complete, we'll expect to hear back from them to say we reviewed 500 records and we corrected 50, and they've done that in the past, right? They've gone back and corrected time records. So we will get an update as time goes along.
So how can you assure that time theft is not happening?
When we audit again in 2 years, it's already on this audit is repeating in, I believe, 2027 or 2028. And it's already on the calendar. So we go back and we review all the time records since this audit. Any updates that they've done to their processes will be accounted for as far as controls in place.
Were there like 6 ongoing concurrent audits?
Right now, we have 3. We just wrapped up this one, so.
Okay.
And you said per the law through the comptroller, the mandate
Local
is
law 13.
every year, but we're doing it
Yes.
every 2 years?
Yes, because we don't have the resources to conduct the audit every year, but what we do is cover the period in between. So if you notice, the scope for this audit is about a 2-year period. And it starts immediately where the last audit ended.
So do you have to ask for a variance from the law to not
No,
do
so-
it every year?
So, legal actually advised us, I don't know if I should be saying this, but we are not bound by some of those directives, but we follow them as a guide.
Their advisory opinions from the controllers.
Oh.
So we follow them as a
Okay,
guide.
even though it's
Similar
a
to
local
food
law.
reimbursements and stuff, we could actually claim to be it.
DFS said we're supposed to do an audit, every 5 years, and I think they're 2 audits behind already at this point, right?
And I'll add that, while this is an important thing to manage the time records and this feeds directly to payroll, this is not actually how we would catch theft of time.
No.
How we catch theft of time is actually in productivity records. So we track the activities of every individual here. And we have caught theft of time before. We dismissed one employee about 5 years ago for theft of time. And we have had discipline procedures for people who were clearly, in cyber shift, but not actually working. And we picked the not actually working part up in our monthly productivity reports by individual.
Interesting.
Okay, thanks for that explanation.
Ancillary question. So local law 18 is that all agencies have to publish their information on NYC.gov, right? Or vice versa, 13 or 18. Is that feed coming directly from us as an agency to NYC.gov that
What
there,
data?
I think it's,
You mean?
I mean,
open-
our investment data
Open-
is up
right,
there.
open.
Yeah.
yeah, the open NYC in terms of full disclosure. And I was just wondering, because I was looking at demographics of different agencies.
We make those reports quarterly to the EEO office.
And they go- and they
Honestly,
would
I
go-
don't understand what the mechanic is that gets it to
Okay.
that reporting mechanism. I don't.
I'm just wondering if it comes from us directly. I'm assuming.
I can chime in here. Any reporting requirement that is in place, we abide by. If there's a voluntary reporting issue, then we do it on as a requested basis. So if we get a request for information, we follow up and provide that. But anything that's mandated to be reported, we are doing in the course of business.
Got it. Okay.
And that was Samantha from legal.
Yeah, I got it.
It was God.
It's like, no, came down.
Dum dum dum.
I always knew God was a woman. So. Okay,
So I can move on to finding number 2. I mean, for finding.
yeah, let's move through. We get bogged down sometimes because we're interested, but
So finding number 2 has to do with overtime, meal period, and compensatory time requirements being applied inconsistently. So based on the overtime policy of BERS, the timekeeper is required to review unapproved overtime records and credit them as comp time by default, unless there's express approval by fiscal ops or the executive office. The rules and regs for administrative employees also, in consistency with state labor law, require employees who have worked a shift of 5 or more hours to take at least 30 minutes of a meal break. And then the third criteria here is that when employees work overtime, they are required to work for 2 hours beyond their regularly scheduled working hours in order to get paid for a meal allowance. So we reviewed again the same 74,000 plus records, and we found about 554 where these rules were not consistently applied. So 485 records showed work days with 5 or more hours without the mandatory 30-minute meal break.
okay.
60 records show meal allowances were paid where overtime work was less than 2 hours. And then 9 records showed unapproved overtime of at least an hour. So we did apply that yardstick of an hour because sometimes employees will lag, doesn't necessarily mean that they're working overtime. So we used 1 hour as a standard to determine if they were actually working overtime. And we found 9 instances of that without the default compensatory time credit. And so we recommended that management enhances their monitoring and compliance with these policies. And we asked them to do that by routine pay period reviews by the timekeeper and oversight to verify that required meal breaks are taken and that overtime and meal allowances are properly approved and that they apply their policy of compensatory time being credited by default if an employee works overtime.
So the majority, so the biggest finding was that our employees are giving more time back by not taking their lunch.
It's actually a non-compliance issue, right? It's
Right,
state
that's the
law that
mandatory,
requires-
right? I get it.
And all of this is the 74,000 record.
Yeah, so out of the
So
seven,
all of this reporting.
number 1 and number 2, so the time,
Oh, okay.
which applies to time records, yes.
Okay, thanks.
And this is over what time period? 2 years?
This is from March of 2023 to April of 2023 to March of 2025.
Okay.
2-year period, roughly.
Quick question, do we need more bodies, permanent staff, or do we need better system?
I can't speak for the HR team because they administer this. I don't know what their pain points are as far as, if they need more bodies. However, if CyberShift, which we have no control over, if CyberShift will require the break, is that, it would be a system control that you can't override, and so it would automatically ensure that those breaks are taken, but that's not built into the system. And we didn't recommend that because BERS doesn't have the ability to make those kinds of recommendations to an outside agency.
Got it. I'm not gonna take too much time. Just trying to orient. And I'm curious to know what the impact is working online and tracking versus working from work. Have we made the adjustments, especially with the new automation, Sandy, as far as membership?
So, yeah, so our systems are all on remote desktops, so whether you're working here in the office, at home, or at a hotel, we actually track keystrokes and every transaction.
Wow.
So, yeah, we have quite comprehensive data on activity in terms of ops on velocity. We have very detailed data on our call center. We have very detailed data on outreach. So yeah, we have a lot of data, and it's one of the reasons we're assembling our staffing models. We're using this data to project what our transaction volumes will be, and it's driving our headcount requests. But so on this audit, this is kind of a very high level control, very high level control. When you say that, there are 4,000 time records that are approved by individuals outside designated approver, these are approved time periods. I mean, there's not a lot. I do question the rating of risk as being medium, given our enhanced controls related to our productivity stats. I mean, I got this report and I was still pharmacologically impacted last week, so I only looked at it today. So I apologize if that comes as a surprise, but there's no money leakage here. There's no money leakage.
Compliance.
If there was, then the rating would be higher, right? So these are individual control weaknesses. However, the impact is less because we didn't actually find instances where employees were paid. If we did, then the rating would be higher.
Okay. I'm sorry, Sandy, just this one last question. And this is just your insight. What were some of the things that you noticed, any differences from being audited pre and post membership?
Migration?
Yeah.
Well, so historically, Ade, you've been head of internal audit for what, 4 years now?
6, 7.
6 or 7? It was pre-COVID. It was
Yeah,
pre-COVID.
pre-COVID.
And Ade was running one of the ops departments. We were still at 65
Financials
court.
and death benefits, yes.
Yeah, we were still at 65 court. And so when I was hired 10 years ago, there were internal auditors. There was no history of any reports, none.
Right.
I mean, there were 0 reports. So there was no internal audit activity. There were internal auditors. There was no internal audit activity. Day has put together a very strong program. She's understaffed, but she's doing a great job. We have a membership growth problem, which is going to stress the agency and headcount. And we will advocate for additional headcount for all our needs, but we have to prioritize where the money is. And the money is the members. So where are we focused? We're focused on call center. We're focused on outreach to get information on our members in their beneficiaries. We're focused on getting them into TDA. We're focused on executing transactions and watching the backlog in terms of retirements and loans, and that's where the money issues are, right? So, to be honest, this, internal audit's important, very important. I'm an audit committee chairman for public companies. I'm an audit committee financial expert according to the SEC. Extraordinarily important. However, money issues trump them. So, this is about money issues. These aren't significant money issues. Just so if we're short head count. Yeah, I don't know if I answered your question. It's probably.
No,
too
you
far back.
did. I just wanted to, again, there are patterns that happens when you're on and offline. Y'all were a little late to the system, right? To that, that industry jump is crucial. And I just wanted to know.
Yeah, and we, where we don't catch transactions through velocity or activity in the call center or activity in member outreach, which is all documented and recorded. We also use Microsoft 365. So we know when someone isn't answering their email.
So
We have running data systems that tell us, if for 2 weeks I let my email run,
It's
we have
gonna
a record
show.
of it.
Right.
Yep, and you could go through my Microsoft 365 and know exactly when I was online.
Let's move through these a little bit quicker because we got some more.
Can I say one question? Because it was brought up at the last Friday series that, what was it called, Perry? That NYCBERS is using of FAQ and agentic AI.
Yep.
Is that one of the alternatives if we don't have the headcount?
We're implementing a new Cisco call center system that we believe ultimately will include FAQs. Now, one of the issues is there is a history in New York City. Mayor Adams launched a specialized FAQ agentic AI response system. He had to take it offline.
Yeah, that was
They
discussed.
mentioned on Friday.
It was
Yeah,
mentioned.
so
Teachers is implementing a.
there are things we can do, and we're looking at the new Cisco system, which is being implemented over the next month or two. They're testing it and getting it ready. It's not online yet.
Is it the same system that TRS is using? TRS is using.
I don't know. Steve Sabili would know that. He's our IT head.
Okay.
He's running that implementation.
And this is showing up as line items clearly presented when it hits the board again. Like,
What,
in
for that,
regards
for that
to-
expenditure?
yeah,
Yeah, you approved the contract. The board approved that contract.
right.
That was approved probably 9 months ago, 6 months ago. I'd have to go back and look. But that was a contract that was approved. It was in the fiscal 2024 budget, actually, and it was approved by contract. Before we actually passed the fiscal 2026 budget.
Let's walk through this a little
Okay,
quicker.
So the overtime policy will be updated by HR, and they will send quarterly communications to supervisors regarding this policy and also provide guidance on overtime waivers and comp time. And HR is also going to send a memo to managers reminding them of the requirement for the 30-minute meal break. And all of this should be done by April of 2026. So finding number 3 has to do with salary ranges. So DCAS, Department of Citywide Administrative Services, sets the schedules for classifications and salary ranges for all city agencies, including BERS. So as part of this audit, and we've done this every audit cycle, we review the salaries for all the employees that are active as of a certain date. And we determine if their salaries are within the ranges established by DCAS. So this audit, we identified 10 employees whose salaries exceeded the DCAS range by amounts ranging from $38 to $2,897. And then we also observed one employee's salary that was below the DCAS minimum. However, management did indicate that this employee was hired at the hiring salary, not the minimum salary, which although permitted is not typical for BERS. And this is, and we did add this to the report because in the past, the audit committee has always asked, okay, you found people over the range, did you find anyone under? So that's why we're presenting this. It is permitted, but it's not typical. The hiring salary is permitted for individuals without prior city experience. And so that was the explanation for this one.
In the city, the civic testing,
Civil service.
I'm sorry, yes, thank you. Civil service testing, is this out of the parameters of the civic, outside of that range?
No, so there, it's not that, it's all interrelated, right? So for a job title and level, there's a salary range, right? And so what we did was check to see if these salaries were within the range. It didn't matter if they were provisional or if they had done the civil service test and were permanent.
Right.
We were just looking at their job title and their level within that title.
And those are annual salary numbers.
Yes. So we did note that, for those that are over, it typically happens when there is a salary increase outside of the schedule of collective bargaining agreement. So when the collective bargaining agreement hits, it tends to push some of those individuals over the range. And so we recommended that, well, before that, so management, did let us know that, you know, they did have some pushback about this because it speaks to being able to compensate individuals, right, for performance. And that's what BERS would like to do, be able to
retain.
compensate and retain. But those ranges are there for a reason, and we did find exceptions there and have to report them. So we recommended that when those kinds of raises are being considered in the future, just if there are collective bargaining agreements that are already established, the information is available online, just review with fiscal ops to make sure that, to the best that they can, to make sure that those ranges will not be exceeded when those collective bargaining increases are applied.
And what was the cohort number that you reviewed? Like how many employees?
So there were 163 employees active as of March 31st, 2025. And so as far as an action plan, HR referred us to the executive office because they, like I said, they did express that pushback that, you know, they should be able to.
Yeah, these are completely out of our control.
Hmm.
I mean, we can't tell DCAS to change the range when the CBA rolls through our compensation levels.
Well, they usually, whenever there's a CBA, the ranges also increase. So if it's a 3% raise, then the range increases.
So these specific instances, what drove it out of the range?
So this is when individuals received a raise, maybe discretionary.
Yeah.
Or RBI, responsibility based, in between, somewhere in between the CBA increases.
Per annum, these are nominal numbers too, right? So,
Yeah, these are operating material.
yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I might even consider that, considering the amount of employees and the number amount to be low in terms of risk. But anyway, okay, let's go on to the next one.
Okay, so next is managerial salary increases that were implemented without the required board approval or executive committee review. So the compensation policy for management is set in a Board of Trustees resolution. And that resolution requires that any increase in compensation for a manager that is in excess of 25,000 or 10% of the manager's current salary requires the express approval of the board as well as executive committee review. So during our audit testing, there were 18 managerial salaries in scope, and we found 4 instances of increases where the approval was not obtained from the board or the executive committee. Now, of those 4, 3 were promotion and 1 was a discretionary increase. So we brought this up to management, and management advised us that the legal department of BERS advised that they interpreted the board resolution to mean that promotions are exempt from that requirement. However, that interpretation was not documented prior to the implementation of those salaries. And the resolution just does say all increases. So we recommended that whenever there are increases that will exceed the threshold, to make sure the required approvals are obtained, but also to seek clarification from the board, rather than rely on an interpretation of resolution, to seek clarification, board approval to determine whether or not promotions are exempt.
Yeah, I was under the impression that executive director had discretion and that we had discretion as a board over executive director.
Not based on the resolution of about 3 years ago.
I'm gonna take this one upon myself to have a discussion with the co-chairs.
Would you like a copy of that resolution? We'll get you a copy of the resolution.
Yeah, Sandy just said he's gonna get us a copy of the resolution.
Hi, can I just say something as well? Was there verbal communication that might not have been documented or some other discussion that may not have found it in your audit report or research that could have taken place about these issues?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I'm not sure what you mean, but when we did the test and we found those 4 individuals, we raised them up to management. And we did confirm that 3 were promotions and 1 was discretionary. And management talked about the discretionary one being approved in the budget, but that is a passive approval because the resolution does state that express approval of the board and review of the executive committee is required.
Okay, I just understood from what you said that there was kind of after the fact approval by legal on these issues, and I'm not sure whether there was contemporaneous discussions that might not have been captured in, written documentation that could have been reviewed or taken under advisement. So I'm just taking note of what the findings were and possibly
Who's speaking?
That's Sam.
Samantha.
Sam, I don't think these almost were always my decisions.
Okay.
I think they were all my decisions
We're gonna move.
and we didn't have those conversations.
All right, we're gonna move on from this and we'll have this offline discussion with legal and with the co-chairs of the board and bring back discussion because I think it's important enough. Discuss it.
All right, yeah, so there will be that discussion and, management is gonna seek clarification from the board and if necessary, update the resolution to make it clear if promotions are excluded from this rule and communicate that to management. And then lastly, insufficient documentation of time approvals for consultants and temporary employees. So based on the timekeeping SOPM, temporary employees are required to record their hours in the staffing agency's portal. And managers and supervisors will go in on a weekly basis and approve the time. If they are not able to approve, if they are locked out, or if there's an issue, the managers will request HR to implement the approval on their behalf. And if HR for some reason is not able to do that, they will reach out to the staffing agency, and all of this is expected to be documented, right? And then when the staffing agency submits their invoices for payment, they are usually supported by signed and approved timesheets. So we reviewed invoices for 34 consultants and we found 5 instances where the approvals were not appropriately documented. So in 3 instances, timesheets were approved by personnel administration or HR. However, there was no documented authorization, similar to what we discussed, but this is for consultants or temps. And then we found 2 instances where staffing agency approved the employee's time, but there was no documented approval from HR or
Again, so this is 34 contracts over 2 years with what monthly invoices? So what,
They-
What's that?
Invoices won't be, I don't-
Third for consultants.
34.
Said contracts.
Are they weekly?
The timesheets are weekly, or the invoices weekly.
Yes.
Okay.
That's okay. So these are weekly. Okay, so again, we're not doing too badly here, but it was, we should look at it. For sure, right?
So HR and in remediating this is going to communicate to supervisors that they have to provide confirmation of hours worked in any instances where HR is making a complaint. And this will be implemented by March of next year.
Next year.
I mean, of this year, I'm sorry.
You're okay.
Next month.
Yeah,
I was gonna say
okay.
next month. All right, so that's it for this audit.
So you
are there
just get a
any
taste of what the audit, what these audits look like. They're pretty in-depth. It's thorough. It's very thorough. And then she gives herself a report card on how quickly her stuff is coming out and getting implemented. So you'll see that down the road. Okay, we have a couple of big agenda items, so I think we should, yeah, move it along. So thank you very much for this. I think it was really good. I think it was really good toe in the water for the new members.
I have a couple more.
Yeah, she has
Oh,
more
you do?
slides.
I'm sorry.
So this is just an update on the audits that are currently ongoing. So cash account audit, cash account is the, I want to say account where transactions that are not able to be posted to member accounts are held. And so we're reviewing, the timeliness of processing those
Sweep account?
held, like a
Like what?
suspense account.
Yeah.
Like
It's like a
office
suspense.
tissue?
Suspense.
Like a suspense account in the county, yeah, so transactions are being held temporarily until they are able to be posted to the appropriate account. It's usually for different reasons like demographic changes, so say a member changes payroll. And CPMS, our system of record, is expecting certain information and it doesn't match, it will route it to the cash account, and then the QA team will use a batch to clear out what they can, and then the rest to be manually reviewed. And so we're just reviewing that process for timeliness and accuracy.
And reimbursements?
Sometimes, yeah, that's part of the testing that we're doing. Some of them will require reimbursements. We're looking at loans processing, we're looking at accuracy, timeliness of loans processing. We're looking at financial reporting again. We're looking at the reports that roll up the financial statement, not the actual financial statements. And then lastly, there's an external audit by DFS, Department of Financial Services. This is covering fiscal years 2019 to 2023. And it is an exam into the condition and affairs of births. So they're looking at pretty much.
This is not triggered by the controllers.
No, this
This
is
is the
required
regular
once every 5
5 years. Okay.
All right, so this is an update on audit findings, right? So we talked about this earlier. So we track all the audit findings to completion, we follow up on a quarterly basis. And we try to time that follow-up with the audit committee so that we're giving you, more up-to-date information on those findings. So since the last, if you look at the top right, the chart there is just indicating the findings that have been remediated since the last meeting, and we have 5 of those. And we have 40 findings that are currently open. And an upcoming slide will break that down a little further. The second chart shows the distribution of the findings. So closed versus open, high, medium, low. And it's just basically describing for you that, so of the high risk findings, 69% have been fully remediated or closed, 31% are still open. And for the medium, 80% are fully remediated or closed, and 20% are still open.
And this is in the last 60 days.
No, this is historically. So we've started tracking all of this in 2020.
It says remediation since last audit committee meeting.
Yes, in the top, not, the last meeting was in October. So since October, that's for the chart on the top left. 5 findings were fully remediated and closed out.
In the last 60 days.
Okay.
5, all time.
Yeah, all right, 5 in the last 60 days.
Right.
Yeah, some of these will take time for various reasons. Some of them are dependent on system improvements,
Okay.
which could take a while depending on
Okay.
how they're prioritized.
But a day's tracking them.
Okay, so for those that were recently remediated, I'll just talk quickly. So the first two are from the pension benefits audit that we conducted last year, or we wrapped up last year. And there were issues regarding segregation of duties between suspension and recoupment between two units. And what management has done since is appoint an assistant supervisor that is helping to ensure that there's segregation between both teams and their functions. And they're also running reports to review some of those transactions to make sure that the segregation controls that they've put in place are being followed, meaning the same individual is not processing a transaction through and through. They're making sure that separate individuals are involved in the different steps. For debt benefit verification, they created preparer and verifier roles and appointed two verifiers similar to pension benefits payment, just to make sure that there are separate individuals within this process. And they also updated the SOPM for all debt benefits processing. Service credit purchase, so they updated the SOPM to specify the service credit rules. One of the things we had identified was that this service crediting was not being done by prioritizing the information that was available. There were instances where they were using other rates to calculate.
Okay.
But they've cleared all of that up and updated the SOPM to indicate the order by which, because sometimes the information is just not there, but usually it's preferred when you have the service to use the service. If you don't have the service and you have the earnings, you want to use the earnings and the rate, and then it kind of tears down. But so they've updated the SOPM. They are conducting periodic reviews of SCP calculations to make sure that they are accurate and compliant. Oh, sorry, I think I skipped. Adjustments tracker. So adjustments of transactions are being tracked, and they established a tracker. The QAM department did that, and a procurement checklist was implemented into the workflow, and it covers the different procurement methods.
Is the consultant that we utilize to help the implementation, do you have access to the consultants as well? Are they giving you information? Right, Sandy's gone.
What implementation?
There was the consultant that we hired to help analyze our service people's activities. Right,
I haven't worked with them.
okay. Okay.
I'm sorry, quick question. Can you, the loan tracking, is that how many people borrow against their retirement?
Yeah, that's what the loans are. So people will borrow against their pension
Their pension,
or from their TDA.
got it. And you track that,
Well, we're auditing that now,
right?
right? We're doing a repeat audit. We audited it, I think, in 2023 or 2022.
That's tracked in the system. That's tracked
Okay.
in the system.
And just a quick question, and so you're not responsible for finding out why they needed the money, right? That's not your job, right? Okay,
Yeah, as long as they're eligible, so they have to be in service for a member for a year, they have to have a minimum of $1,000, and they can take one loan every year. So when they're eligible, they apply and they get a loan. We don't, the only thing that we will ask why is not for loans, is for hardship withdrawals.
which is separate.
That's a completely separate process. That's from the TDA.
Where, can I ask if you don't, I'm so, thank you, I appreciate it. For you to be here today, I don't know whose decision that was, but it was major. Let me ask you, if someone had to bail a relative out of jail, where would that fall?
You would have to take a loan because that wouldn't qualify under the hardship.
Who makes up the hardship rules?
The IRS,
Curious.
they're very specific, yeah.
Yeah, and funerals
Funerals will qualify.
Would qualify.
Funerals,
As a hardship.
for loans, we don't question the reason for the loan.
Right. Okay.
A hardship withdrawal is not a loan, you don't pay it back. It's a withdrawal from the tax deferred annuity. Yeah.
It's from the TDA.
You qualify after.
So there are a few reasons if
It's
I
not
can,
a
so there are funerals, college education, buying a house, I think first home.
After time, how much time you have to work at the job in order to qualify for that?
I don't think there's a service requirement. So as long as you have enough in your contributions, you can take a hardship withdrawal from your contributions, not from the interest on your account. So, and then you do have to, I know the rules may have changed recently, but I'm almost certain you did have to prove the amount that you're requesting. They may have relaxed that during COVID.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, let's move on.
Right,
This
it's like that all lives in the IRS.
major item is still on this agenda, guys.
Right, okay, IRS.
Actually,
Get all the
really,
fun
this is
facts. I know.
We're
they're-
learning.
I
We
get
have
that, I
to
get it, I
learn
get
to
it.
be,
But
you
that
know,
was
able.
great to
to
see.
navigate.
meetings today.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody really knows the difference in hardship and.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Okay, so this is just an update on the open high risk findings, recalculation of death benefits due to chapter 716 is ongoing. They recently discovered a bug in the system and they have to recalculate everything that was previously recalculated.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Monthly reconciliation of prior service calculations is ongoing. There's a CPMS improvement ticket that is pending also for prior service, for applying payments, partial payments, and some display issues that were identified for it. Inconsistent suspension of participant accounts is being worked on. Manual refunds, I believe there's a ticket pending for that also, for segregation. And we still have the issue of the variable annuity fund. There's still no contract in place.
That's with the
between
teachers, right? That's the TRS issue, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And BERS specific procurement rules are being drafted. And the two graphs are basically just showing you two perspectives, you know, on the open issues. You know, we kind of group the transactions into buckets. So some of them fall on and there could be some overlap between them, but we try to differentiate. So there's benefits related, findings, compliance, customer service, fiscal operations, human resources, and IT related. And so the graph just shows you where we are as far as the high and medium rated risks under those categories.
Looks good and thorough as per usual.
All right, so required reporting. So the IIA standards require that I report to you on these matters once a year. And the first is conformance with the standards. So I can report that all the audit procedures we performed in 2025 were in conformance with the audit standards.
Check that box.
And then I'm also required to confirm the internal audit functions independence within the organization, and I can confirm that. And that is usually attained by the reporting structure. So I'm reporting functionally to you, the audit committee, and administratively to the executive office.
You see that on display today, very clearly.
There were no scope limitations or restrictions on access to records, properties, or personnel of BERS. We did have a resource limitation as a result of budget. There were headcount restrictions. We had to use consultants. And then lastly, QAIP. So QAIP is the Quality Assurance and Improvement Program. We are required to undergo an external assessment once every 5 years. That's currently ongoing. And like I said at the top of this, so it's basically the internal audit function being audited by an external assessor. And we had an RFP, hired a firm, and they're should be wrapping up within the next maybe month or so.
Oh, so this is going on now. Okay.
Yes, it's actively going on. And they will report on their findings to the audit committee at the next meeting. So Q2 audit committee meeting, we will be in the hot seat. Being grilled.
Wow.
And then this is a function that I'd be curious to see how the other funds are doing.
I believe they're doing it as well.
Same company?
So the company that's doing ours did NYCBERS.
Okay, interesting.
And then internal assessment, so this is ongoing, it's required by the standards. Based on our internal assessment, so we usually will send surveys, time our audits and performance. And we experience significant timing delays, and it's for a combination of factors, staffing, response times. Our audit programs tend to be pretty complex. We're in the weeds, digging through transactions and, we're working on improving our timing, and something that will help with that is audit management software, which we are currently in the process of procuring. We also are in need of an IT auditor, and we are procuring for a third-party firm that will help with our IT audits.
Oh.
Any questions before I move?
Any questions?
How long does the procurement process take for the audit management software?
8 years.
I mean, the RFP was issued in the summer of 2025, and it took a while to even get there because we had to wait for budget approval. And then the RFP went out. The responses that we got, we were not pleased with, so we had to cancel that.
That's for the IT auditor.
That's for software, for audit software. And so we've been cleared by procurement to do a negotiated acquisition, meaning we can contract directly with a vendor. So right now we are scheduling demos with a few vendors just to experience their product, and hopefully we can afford what they're offering.
So what do the other retirement systems use? Like, why isn't there like a city manager?
There are some things that we should be doing as all 5 that we don't.
And
don't
that's
know.
one of them, in your opinion, Tony?
I'll let others opine on that. I don't know what the answer is. I think there are certain things that make sense for all of us to utilize, like when we review deaths, the death list to make sure that people are, like certain things like that could be universally used. For some reason we don't. I don't know who makes those decisions.
That seems like a fair
It's not
question.
per retirement board, like, it's not to say that fire has something that we don't.
Oh, some
That is,
instances, yes.
that is, yeah, that is, yeah.
They might. So
Yeah.
what we're
That's
not
what I'm
able to
asking.
do
It's like,
is,
why are we not all
if there's a
using the same?
contract, we can
Yes.
write on a city contract, and that's one of the things that our procurement team is looking at, right? So they're checking with these vendors to see if there's an existing, I believe it's OGS contract, and there's another
Right.
one that we
Mhm.
can write on to,
Come on to
benefit.
this.
So you're basically meeting people where they are, what they have, what they can afford, what they have. That's cross industry. Like, if you have an apple and an orange, I'll work with your apple and the orange. Is that what you're saying?
Because the other way around, they're working with us, right? We come with our requirements of what we want in the system. And then they're showing us their product and, giving us cost of that product. And then we decide if we want the product.
Without giving proprietary information, there was one of the funds that was caught in the Move It hack because they were involved with another company in terms of the death review. And NYCBERS was not included in the Move It hack because we didn't utilize that entity. There was 2 different entities that would be utilized to review that. And that's some area where, maybe aggregation would benefit us.
The gaps here.
Yeah. But,
Interesting.
Okay.
But do we know what the other retirement systems are using for
Not-
their audit?
To a degree.
Yeah, not
To a
necessarily.
degree. So I know that one of the pension funds is using a product that we did actually speak to the vendor, maybe 3 weeks ago, thereabout. And they let us know that they've kind of evolved their product, and they know we were too small for them, basically. They're now catering, they've expanded the product to cater to teams of 30 to 50 and up.
Mhm.
That's what we're told. So the other systems, I don't know if every single one of them has a software that they're using, but I know that at least one of them.
I'm sorry, it's Samantha again. I can speak to fire because I worked for the fire pension fund for 6 years. And before that, I was involved on the police pension fund in this capacity. There was a service called PBI that it's very proprietary how they get their information. Some are directly connected to Social Security as far as death audits and things like that. But they had a very big data breach recently, so we have to be careful of who we, attach our hook with as far as the service goes.
All right, Sam, we're gonna cut you off here because we have to move on to this next item. Now, you've basically all gotten the idea of the approval of the internal audit plan. Thank you, Dave. I'm cutting you off on it because we have another meeting now. So you see the intensity at which this is delivered. And this is, I think you got a good toe in the water. Kind of got an overview of what the audit plan will be for the next, what is it, 3 years? 3-year rolling internal audit plan. So may I have a motion to consider?
Early motions.
Second on Mahisha. The 3-year rolling internal audit plan presented to us contains planned audits for calendar years 2026 to 2028. Any material changes to the planned activities and or resources for the department may result in revisions to the plan. Significant changes will be communicated to the audit committee and senior management by the internal audit director. And I have to say, the internal audit director has been hard on herself about some changes and some lags, but she's been harder on herself than we would be because she's gotten a lot done with a lot less. Are there any questions about that? Can we proceed to a vote
We're just voting
on the 3-year plan,
the
the audit plan, which we've basically been told we have these same audits that come up regularly, and you have a list of them. Any questions about that? And it's 3 audits going, but there's what, five on a regular basis? How many audits on a regular basis that
I
we're,
mean, it just depends. Sometimes we have 5, sometimes we have 6. So it's just a timing.
okay. But it's just basically all the audits that we discussed today are on a rolling basis for the next 2 years. So her work, the team's work is set out ahead of them. There can be changes to this plan made at any time, and with so there'd be additional changes. Okay, I'm gonna proceed to a vote. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Your plan is set. Okay, approval of the internal audit charter. The next item on the agenda is agenda item 6, approval of the internal audit charter. Can I have a motion to consider? May I have a second?
Second. Alice.
Alice? Okay, great. The internal audit charter formally defines the purpose of authority and responsibility of the internal audit activity consistent with the Institute of Internal Auditors Global Internal Audit Standards. The charter was last updated in January 2025. Are there any questions about this?
I have a question. So regarding what we were just speaking about with the management salaries and that sort of thing, does that live in this section, communication with audit committee and senior management? Like, none of that is part of this, right?
No.
That was just its own resolution that we need to resolve over there.
Yes.
Okay, then I'm good. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a question. I know our board is very visual and hyper visual, and I think that you did a tremendous job. And I think visually, if we can have more of a presentation of what things and systems look like, even if you're just using visual blocks, say for instance, BERS has as well, in addition to, say for instance, the systems that BERS has, maybe you can represent it as 3 components of the audit, opposed to fire, who may have 5 components of their audit. And these 2 extra components allow them to do X, Y, and Z more, which leads to clarity or more effectiveness. To be able to see those things, those dynamics.
Fire don't have it. It's right, Samantha?
Do you understand?
I understand, but
Fire has no visuals whatsoever.
Oh, no, I'm just saying.
No, just say, using this example. I get it.
I
I'm
would,
so sorry.
the information that I would have access to is internal, right? So comparing against
Okay.
So I do know some things because we meet as a team, as a group with all the auditors of the system, so we share information, but not to the extent where I can, you know,
Show, demonstrate,
Give
and
that.
that's confidential, I guess.
it's a safe space.
Safe space, gotcha. Okay, that was just a thought.
All right, guys, so we're gonna call the question now on the audit charter. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Okay, committee discussion. Next item on the agenda is committee discussion. Can I have a motion to consider?
Motion, Shirley.
May I have a second? Are there any issues regarding what was discussed here today that need to be discussed further? Does anyone have any additional questions? Say no.
Where can we go? We could just go
Comment.
BERS
Was
to see the audit. Any follow-up on? No.
On what? On what's the question?
Okay, nope, this is
Okay.
outside of the order.
Okay, this concludes.
I have a comment.
You got a comment?
See, not a question. Well, kind of. So I know there's an order of priorities for the head count for manpower. And I know this is the center, blah, blah, but it is really important that the audit gets manpower. Because audit is meticulous. You need to, and time consuming, and you need more than
Well,
one
we
office.
we'll be able to discuss this in the full board during Andy's report when we come back, because he's gonna give, well, I want to hear what he's going to say about what's taking priority over another headcount here.
Yeah, he said a little bit
Right.
already.
He said he's gonna discuss it in the full board meeting, so we'll come back to that.
How about systems? Is there anything that can update what we're actually using?
Well,
For the audit?
what's actually interesting is Vitech, which is the company that we utilize for our systems, is being pushed now to Fire, as Fire is doing their system. So, and the original owners of Vitech are no longer there. They've been sold to a private equity company. So, so.
What do you mean by pushed now? I mean, I thought they were both simultaneously already using the software.
Police and BERS used Vitech to create their systems. Fire, I think, is currently trying to.
So I can speak to this if you'd like, Tony.
I need 3 seconds on it because we really have another meeting that we have to get into like right now.
Okay, 0 seconds. Back to you, Tony.
Okay, and yeah, we can talk about this offline. So with that, I will accept the motion to adjourn.
Motion, second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone say no?
Yeah.
Any abstentions? Motion carries. All right, I think we have to go to the other room.